The Church Growth and Giving Show, your resource for growing faithful communities. Brought to you by Vanco, helping tens of thousands of churches thrive for over 20 years. Join Jordan and Andy as they share insights drawn from decades of church giving and engagement expertise.
Today we're talking about how to run a church council meeting like a pro. These meetings can sometimes feel a bit overwhelming or unproductive, but they're actually crucial to church leadership.
They really are crucial. Great churches don't just happen by accident. They're built on strategic planning, clear bylaws, and strong leadership. And the church council meeting is where all that governance actually comes to life.
Let's start with the question, what exactly is a church council meeting? And how is it different from other church meetings like board meetings or committee meetings?
That's a great question to start with. Some meetings are more procedural than anything else. A church council meeting definitely isn't one of those. It's where the real work of church leadership happens, where vision turns into action and the decisions that shape your faith community get made.
So who typically attends these meetings?
Unlike a congregational meeting, where every member has a say, a church council meeting brings together the people responsible for guiding the church: the senior pastor, church elders, deacons, and key ministry leaders. If you're in that room, you're helping steer the ship.
And that sounds like a significant responsibility.
It absolutely is. And it's different from a church board meeting, which often focuses more on oversight. Think of it this way: the church board makes sure the lights stay on, the prayer team lifts the church in faith, and the church council ensures that both the spiritual and operational sides are moving in the right direction.
What kinds of topics are typically addressed in these meetings?
You're tackling big questions: financial management, ministry oversight, and strategic direction.
So why are these meetings so important? What happens if a church doesn't have effective council meetings?
Without these meetings, your church leadership would essentially be flying blind. There would be no clear strategy, no agreed upon budget, and no plan for that much needed fundraising campaign. That's how churches end up with a broken copier and a mystery expense labeled coffee supplies.
I think we've all seen those mystery budget lines.
In a church council meeting, you wrestle with the real issues. How can you expand outreach without stretching the budget too thin? Is it time to invest in better facility management? What's the best way to strengthen stewardship while funding new ministries? These aren't just theoretical questions. They're the backbone of a thriving church.
Those decisions about new ministries tend to spark passionate debate. The conversations aren't always easy, but they're necessary.
Exactly. Without these meetings, your church risks becoming reactive instead of proactive. And let's be honest, no one wants to be in a church where the most significant decision making happens in the parking lot after Sunday service.
That's such a good point. So let's talk about how to plan an effective church council meeting. Where do you start?
It starts with setting a solid agenda. If you've ever sat through a meeting that seemed to go on forever, you know how important this is. A well-planned agenda keeps your church governance on track and ensures that all the big topics get the attention they need.
Too many meetings get way off track because there isn't a clear agenda. How detailed should the agenda be?
It should be specific enough to provide structure, but flexible enough to allow for meaningful discussion. When laying out your agenda, prioritize what matters and give everyone a chance to contribute. Don't let those smaller discussions turn into the main event. A little time management goes a long way in keeping the meeting moving.
Are there any tools or templates that can help with creating an effective agenda?
Absolutely. There are free agenda templates available in Word and Google Docs that can serve as great starting points. They provide a framework that you can customize to your church's specific needs.
What about preparation before the meeting? I imagine that's pretty important too.
It's critical. It doesn't help anyone to walk into a meeting missing half the information needed to make an informed decision. That's why it's crucial to send out minutes from previous meetings, agendas, and reports ahead of time.
That gives everyone a chance to review the materials and come prepared, right?
Giving everyone the chance to review materials before the meeting means less confusion and more productive conversations. Tools like Google Drive work wonders to keep everything organized and accessible.
What about scheduling? Finding a time that works for everyone can be challenging.
Finding the right time for a church council meeting can feel like trying to organize a family reunion. Everyone's schedule is packed, and someone's bound to have a last minute conflict. The key is to find a time that works for most, ideally, one that doesn't conflict with church programs or worship services.
Are most councils meeting in person or virtually these days?
It's a mix. If you're meeting in person, ensure your facilities are equipped for the group. Comfortable chairs, a good sound system, and maybe even some coffee to keep the energy up. Virtual meetings are a lifesaver for those who can't make it in person, but ensure the tech is set up so no one's left staring at a frozen screen.
Let's talk about best practices for running the meeting itself. What role does the chairperson or facilitator play?
As the chairperson, you're not just there to read through the agenda, you're there to ensure the conversation stays respectful and productive. Think of yourself as a referee in a friendly game, keeping the ball rolling while ensuring no one gets sidelined.
How do you handle it when discussions start getting heated or off topic?
That's where gentle redirection comes in. A simple, let's circle back to that works wonders. After all, you don't want the meeting turning into a full blown debate over minor policies rather than focusing on the mission. The facilitator's role is to create space for everyone to be heard while keeping the discussion moving forward.
What about decision making and voting? Different churches seem to approach that in different ways.
Decision making in a church council isn't about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about clarity and fairness. Everyone should be on the same page, whether you're going for a majority vote or working toward consensus.
Are there any specific strategies that can help make the voting process clearer?
Before casting votes, ask questions like, are we all clear on what we're deciding here? That small check can save a lot of confusion later. It's not just about the process. It's about ensuring the decision aligns with the church's vision and serves the congregation well.
That makes sense. Nobody wants to revisit a decision 2 weeks later because key voices weren't heard or people misunderstood what they were voting on.
That's incredibly frustrating. Transparency and fairness in decision making aren't just ideals, they build trust, ensuring every voice is valued and heard.
Time management can also be a challenge in these meetings. How do you keep things moving without rushing important discussions?
A church council meeting can quickly go from we're here to get things done to how did we end up talking about the church picnic for 30 minutes? The key is a well structured agenda with clear time limits for each topic. You can even add a timekeeper to your team. We all need that friendly reminder that it's time to move on.
What about those off topic discussions that just happen naturally?
The biggest enemy of church decision making. You know the ones. Someone starts talking about their kid's soccer game, and before you know it, you've spent 20 minutes reminiscing about youth group days. It's tempting to dive into those distractions, but remembering that your strategy is about maximizing everyone's time will keep things moving.
What are some common challenges that church councils face in their meetings?
You've probably been in that meeting where attendance is sparse and the energy feels a little flat. Low engagement can be tricky to handle, mainly when you're all gathered to make big decisions about missions and programs.
Why do you think that happens? Is it just that people are busy?
Sometimes it's not about what's on the agenda, but what's happening outside the meeting. People are busy, distracted, or just not feeling it. Then there's the potential for conflict, a disagreement here, a misunderstanding there. It's inevitable when passionate leaders are gathered, but it doesn't have to derail everything.
How can church councils handle these challenges?
For low attendance, consider mixing up the timing. Rotating meeting times could help those who always seem busy when you meet. Maybe even offer a virtual option. As for lack of engagement, assigning topics to each member can give them a sense of ownership and purpose.
And what about when conflicts arise?
If conflicts pop up, try reminding everyone why they're there in the first place. Church mission first, drama second. A little grace and a focus on the bigger picture usually help things fall into place. And for meetings where everyone's talking over each other, Robert's Rules of Order can provide a helpful framework.
That makes me think of another question. How often should church councils meet? Is there an ideal frequency?
That's a question more and more churches are asking themselves these days. Monthly meetings are becoming less common, and honestly, it's not hard to see why. When meetings turn into debates about restroom supplies or whether the coffee maker is working right, you might start questioning the return on investment of those 2 hours.
So, what's the alternative to monthly meetings?
Many churches are moving toward quarterly meetings, focusing on more significant issues like reviewing finances, setting strategy, or planning new outreach programs. It's all about finding the right balance. Church leadership doesn't need a meeting just for the sake of it.
That makes a lot of sense. Is there a way to determine what frequency is right for a specific church?
Think about it. Does your leadership need to meet monthly to discuss minor issues, or is it better to come together when you've got substantive updates and decisions to make? You also want to avoid the trap of micromanagement disguised as accountability.
That's such an important distinction.
The goal is not to create an endless list of tiny tasks for every meeting or dictate every detail to your teams. It's about staying focused on what moves the church forward, whether that's updating bylaws, managing volunteers, or deciding on stewardship strategies.
So, really, it comes down to the quality of the meeting rather than the quantity.
100%. If it feels like you're just ticking off boxes instead of making progress, it might be time to rethink that monthly rhythm and give yourself more room to breathe.
This has been such a practical conversation. As we wrap up, are there any resources you recommend for church leaders looking to improve their council meetings?
We've put together a free set of templates to help church leaders run more effective meetings. There's a meeting agenda template, a minutes template for documenting discussions and decisions, a sign in sheet, an effectiveness checklist, and a board member portfolio template.
Those sound incredibly helpful. Where can our listeners find these resources?
They're all available for free download through the link in our show notes. And as a bonus, we're also offering our comprehensive church leadership guide. More than 1,200 church leaders have already used it to improve their management.
Thanks for sharing these insights about running effective church council meetings, Jordan. I think our listeners will find this information really valuable for their leadership roles.
Always happy to help and share some insights.
And thank you all for joining us today on the Church Growth and Giving Show. We hope these ideas were helpful. Please like and subscribe to our channel for the latest updates. It also helps support us in creating free materials and content to help you and other churches in your mission.